Peptides, retinol, exosomes, everyone is talking about ingredients, but which one actually works? I'm Dr. Amir Karam. I'm a board-certified facial plastic surgeon. I'm the founder and creator of Karam MD. I specialize in facial rejuvenation, which basically means I help people look as young as they feel. And today I'm gonna rate 12 hyped and overhyped ingredients in skincare right now. Some are backed by science, some are total BS, and some of my answers may actually surprise you. But if you like this type of content and want the truth about what actually works in anti-aging and skin health, hit subscribe. I upload new videos every week, so let's get into it. All right, let's kick things off with number one. Retinol is absolutely my favorite skincare ingredient by far. And my rating for retinol, I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10, no question. And why it's the gold standard. The most important reason is it actually works. And it's been around for 40 or 50 years, and there's been thousands of clinical studies that show that it boosts collagen production, speeds up cell turnover, fades pigmentation, it smooths texture. Basically, it does everything. It's a multitasking skincare ingredient. From fine lines to acne to sun damage, uneven tone, I mean, you name it, it is rejuvenating it at the cellular level. And that is really, really an exciting and important thing, but it kind of loses a bit of its cachet and its buzz because it's been around for so long. But really, at the end of the day, it is an absolute non-starter if you want strong, powerful anti-aging results with your skincare. There is a catch, like everything else. There's no such thing as a free lunch. Number one, it can irritate your skin, and oftentimes it doesn't pair well with other strong anti-aging ingredients. Sometimes vitamin C, for example. Sun exposure can be a little bit of an issue. It also takes a while to get the skin acclimated, and the results don't come overnight. They really do take weeks to months to start seeing the changes. But it's a long-term play, and if you get it right, you're gonna be ahead of the anti-aging game. And for those of you who wanna learn more about it, I have other videos that I've talked specifically about retinol. But overall, it's my top choice, and if you're serious about this whole anti-aging skincare thing, you need this in your routine. In fact, when I developed the Karam MD trifecta, I try to solve this issue of irritation, et cetera, by including an encapsulated slow-release retinol that makes it really easy to use. And that's an important part of the Illuminate, which is the third step of the trifecta. Highly effective, but still really gentle enough to be able to use by everyone. That was an absolute non-starter for me. If I was gonna develop something, it had to work. And I urge you guys to make sure that you include retinol in your anti-aging routine. But it's not the only ingredient that you should be looking at. Let's look at some of the other popular ingredients. All right, so let's talk about peptides. Again, it's one of those, if you're not using them, you're missing out. And it is also one of those highly researched anti-aging ingredients. And the question is, well, what in the world are peptides? Peptides are short chains of amino acids that act like messengers. So they're not quite a full protein, they're not quite, mRNA or RNA or something, but they have a cellular effect. And the interesting thing with peptides in skincare is that there are actually a number of different types of peptides that are doing different things and signaling different things to your cells. And some of the important qualities and things that we look for in a peptide is, does it stimulate collagen? Does it stimulate more elastin? Remember, collagen and elastin are the foundation of what skin is made of. And as you age, you lose both of those important proteins. So having an ingredient that increases the production of collagen and elastin really helps you win the long-term game because you're losing it with age and you're building it back up with these ingredients. So overall, I give peptides a 9 out of 10. But here's the caveat. You have to know which ones you're using because they do a lot of different types of things. So for example, some peptides just tighten the skin. They give muscles a relaxing effect, so almost like a Botox. Some of them stimulate collagen. Sometimes, they have effects on pigment. So there's a lot of different types of peptides out there. In fact, if you want to learn more about that, drop it in the comments. And so if I see interest, I'll do a whole video on the different types of peptides so you know what you're getting and expecting. But we actually include peptides in the trifecta for this very reason. In this case, they are supporting collagen stimulation and increasing the production, therefore having that foundational anti-aging effect. The good news about peptides is that unlike retinol, they're very easy to tolerate. They're great for sensitive skin, and they do ultimately deliver powerful results. So that's, again, why I included it in our product, but also why you should include it in any routine that you're considering is a solid peptide combination. Really, the only downside to peptides is, like retinol, they do take time to work, but you need consistency. So if you're using it on a regular basis, you're gonna start to see results over weeks and months, but they're not gonna happen overnight. And I'm gonna talk about some ingredients that will give you overnight changes, but this is not one of them. In a nutshell, they're proven clinically, they produce real results, and they get better and better over time. All right, so moving on. So let's look at vitamin C. Now, vitamin C is one of those very studied antioxidant ingredients in skincare. It has a very, very solid and impressive reputation. And as a result, I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. But here's why vitamin C is essential. It stimulates collagen. Now remember, again, this buzzword we're hearing, stimulating collagen, because that's how you're gonna win the long-term game. It stimulates collagen at that cellular level, which is so important because what you're gonna get with that is improvement in firmness, fine lines, and even elasticity. But it does more. It functions as an antioxidant. So all that UV damage, pollutions, etc., that can cause oxidative stress to the skin and also break down collagen, it supports that and reverses a lot of that. But it also brightens the skin. It decreases pigmentation, and it does that at the cellular level by blocking melanin production. So all around, its ability to neutralize free radicals from UV damage, pollution, environmental damage, plus the fact that it improves collagen production, decreases pigmentation. You can see this theme, this multitasking theme about these ingredients. And this is really important because you're getting synergy with these particular ingredients. So I consider it a non-starter. It also helps with some hydration. It decreases redness. There's a caveat with this as well. So number one, it typically comes in the form of ascorbic acid. Now, ascorbic acid is highly, highly unstable, meaning that it gets exposed to air or light, it can oxidize very quickly and even cause irritation, not because of the oxidation, but in general. So traditional ascorbic acid serums, when you hear about like 10%, 20%, 15%, can be a little bit, in my opinion, kind of old school. They can often be sticky, they can be harsh, they can also be incompatible with other ingredients, important ones like retinol. Oftentimes they're too intense when they're used together. So what should you be looking for in a vitamin C serum? Number one is you want to make sure that there are stable forms of vitamin C that don't degrade or irritate. And also, if you do have them that are in the little droppers, you got to make sure you always close them really tight and don't put them near light, because this is oftentimes not emphasized enough how it can actually break down the product, so you're using something that's less effective. Keep it out of the sun, etc. And you should definitely make sure you're able to use it with your retinol, because not using those two, you're missing out on a lot of anti-aging. But overall, I consider it a non-negotiable, again, for anti-aging. But formulation does matter more than people realize. So don't just grab your first vitamin C. Be very careful about this. In fact, when we went and developed Quench, which is the second step of Trifecta, I wanted to make sure that it had a very, very powerful yet stable form. So we actually have 3 stable forms of vitamin C. That's how serious I take the vitamin C component of it. And it is very, very valuable to any type of skincare routine. So make sure you're using vitamin C. Third up, niacinamide. So here we're having a theme, just so you know. Vitamin A derivative is retinol. Vitamin C is vitamin C, and vitamin B is actually niacinamide. It's kind of fun. But the reality is niacinamide is also vitamin B3, and this is also a powerhouse. So this is absolutely one of my favorite ingredients. My rating for this, I would give it a 9 out of 10, right up there with vitamin C. I consider it a very, very powerful and important ingredient. And why does it do that? Because number one, it strengthens your skin barrier, which is such an important part of skin health. It boosts the ceramide, which is the lipid component of the skin production, that basically functions like glue. It holds the skin cells together and prevents moisture from going in and out. It regulates production of oil without stripping the skin. And it's also great for people who have acne-prone skin. But it also does more. It brightens and evens the tone of skin, and it even reduces hyperpigmentation at the cellular level. So you're thinking it soothes redness, decreases irritation. It's even ideal for people with sensitive skin like rosacea and eczema. I've seen it decrease that redness and make the skin look more calm. So its versatility is very important. It works with every skin type: oil, dry, sensitive, mature. It's even safe during pregnancy, which is different than retinol, but I would always check with your OBGYN before you use any skincare product, period. We usually advise people just simply moisturize and cleanse their skin during pregnancy, but it's different than retinol. Or retin-As specifically. So be careful, but always ask your OBGYN. The other aspect of this is that it pairs really nicely with the other actives like retinol and vitamin C and peptides without causing more irritation, but it actually enhances the effects of those products. So a lot of upside, very little downside, other than the fact that just like every other one of these big actives that are working at the cellular level, results do take time. It's not a quick fix. It takes consistency, using it day over day, and considering it a long-term investment for overall skin health. So overall, a true multitasker backed by solid research, gentle enough for daily use, but powerful for long-time use and worth including in your skincare routine. And again, major reason why I included it in Illuminate, which is the third step of the trifecta. So all these things that I'm telling you, I consider must-haves, but I wasn't playing around when I developed this thing. I wanted to make sure that trifecta had them. All right, next up. So number 5, hyaluronic acid. Hyaluronic acid is a different type of ingredient than the ones we just mentioned. I consider it a very, very important part of skin looking better. And I'm gonna explain why in a second. It is unlike those other products in the sense that those take weeks and months to really deliver their full result because they're working at the cellular level. They're producing something. They're producing collagen, decreasing pigmentation, etc. But hyaluronic acid is technically called a humescent. And what that means is it attracts and holds water. In fact, it holds water at 1,000 times its weight. So imagine how much moisture that's pulling into your skin. And it's keeping it there. And this is an important part of it because what happens with aging is skin starts to deflate due to dehydration, and moisture brings that suppleness, that plumpness back to the skin. So it's an immediate change that makes the skin look a lot better right away. Literally within probably hours of using it, your skin's gonna look a little bit more hydrated, and hydration makes it look prettier and more supple. So I give it an 8 out of 10. It helps with fine lines and wrinkles and just overall makes the skin look more plump and pretty. Is there any downsides? Not really. It's used for all skin types, even oily and acne-prone skin, and it works synergistically, meaning it enhances the effect of other actives when it's used and paired together, and overall makes the skin look better. So consider this a hydrator, not a transformer. It won't build or improve the skin over time, but it is going to give you a beautiful effect right out of the gate. So why not use it? Hyaluronic acid in its normal form is actually too large to really penetrate into skin. Sodium hyaluronate is a salt of hyaluronic acid, but it's much smaller, but it does the same sort of thing, and it allows penetration into the skin in a much better way. So in our case, we use sodium hyaluronate instead of hyaluronic acid to get that deep penetration into the cells and get maximal hydration in the center of the skin as opposed to just the surface of it. So it's also found in the trifecta. It's something that I consider very important. So you can go out and get a separate hyaluronic acid serum, or in this case, it's included in the trifecta if you're using it. But use it daily to get the maximum benefit and get that consistent plumpness to your skin. All right, next up is ceramides and lipids. So these are very important components of building the skin barrier. Remember, the skin cell is a lipid bilayer, and lipids are fats, and they need to be included into this process to enhance and improve the skin barrier, to keep moisture in so you don't dehydrate too quickly. Skin barrier is a really important part of keeping toxins out of the skin and viruses and immune function and everything that skin is meant to do, because skin is, after all, an organ. Ceramides and lipids help enhance that and improve that. So consider these as fatty acids that act like mortar between the skin cells and ultimately sealing in moisture and keeping irritants out in a simple way. I think it's a really, really important part of oil regulation, decreasing clogging of the pores, and all around making the skin function better and strengthening that critical skin barrier. Transepidermal water loss is that thing where you wake up in the morning and your skin looks really rough. That's because of this. So sealing that skin is going to be an important part of it, and these particular ingredients help with that. They also help with decreasing sensitivity and irritation, especially when you're using actives like retinol, etc. So pairing them together actually gives you the ability to tolerate those powerful actives. And a lot of people don't understand that aspect of it. And then when they use retinol by itself, all of a sudden, boom, their skin is red and flaky and irritated and swollen. Pair it with a ceramide or a lipid and you'll see it'll work much more calmly. So all around, very, very good component. I give it an 8 out of 10. I think of it as a protector, as a restorative component, but it's not going to transform the actual aging skin. It's going to function again like hyaluronic acid as a supporting actor, not as a hero or a star. But either way, definitely include this in your routine. I made sure we had a lipid complex and ceramides in Illuminate for that very reason. Next up, botanical brighteners. Now, this is a very interesting category. So to decrease pigmentation, I've already given you 3 actives that can help with that: retinol, vitamin C, and niacinamide. But there's some pigment that's just really stubborn, things like melasma, heavy-duty sunspots, etc. A lot of times people, especially when I was in my early days of practice, people were using hydroquinone, which is a prescription level drug that, cream basically that you use on your skin. But it has long-term problems. You can't use it for more than 6 months because your skin can actually have a rebound hyperpigmentation. So you want something that you're able to use on a regular basis. And this was actually a very interesting challenge because I would improve people's skin with hydroquinone and retinol, etc. And then I'd have to stop the hydroquinone and then they'd be, back to square one. But with botanical brighteners, you can use them consistently. And these are things like licorice root and daisy flower and azelaic acid. I mean, these are interesting things that are found in nature that actually work at the cellular level by decreasing the production of melanin along the melanin production pathway. I consider them very, very important parts because pigmentation and discoloration is an important part of skin looking older. When you think of a 20-something-year-old, you think of clear-looking skin, right? You don't think of sun damage. So if you want your skin to have that 20, 30-year-old even tone and glow, decreasing pigmentation is an important part of it. So I consider botanical lighteners in the 7 to 8 out of 10 category. They're definitely, effective. They work. And for us, it was one of the main reasons why we included it in the Illuminate again, because we wanted to get that long-term, consistent ability to decrease pigmentation and improve. And I actually had some pretty hardcore pigmentation on my neck from years of sun exposure, and the trifecta really helped with that. And I think a lot of it is because of these botanical lighteners. In addition, my wife has melasma, and she's tried everything, including hydroquinone, etc., and nothing has kept the melasma more even, really, in her case, almost like gone. And I think a lot of it has to do with the ability to use these lighteners over time. So overall, super smart, sustainable approach to treating uneven tone. Definitely do not want to miss this in your skincare routine. Consider it a synergistic approach with all those other important actives. All right, so let's move on and talk about aloe vera. Aloe vera is number 8 on this list, and this is one that everyone has heard about, but really underestimate. It's another one of those plants, right? And what does it do? It's not just to help you when you have sunburns or you're trying to calm your skin after a full day of sun exposure, etc. It actually has some very, very nice anti-inflammatory and anti-aging effects. So overall, I give it a 8 out of 10. And here's why it's underrated: because it is a powerful hydrator to the skin without greasiness. So bringing in a lot of hydration, water content. It also has some stimulating effects on fibroblasts, which is what produces collagen and elastin. So you're getting anti-aging effects with hydration. Another one of those synergistic plays, right? Combining it with other products, in addition to the fact that it also in and of itself has vitamin C and vitamin E, which protect against free radical damage. You get that soothing effect on top of it. Well, that's even better by strengthening your skin barrier. Overall, nice synergistic play. I wouldn't say it's a must to include in your anti-aging regimen, but it's definitely something that has synergistic qualities that help with production, hydration, and even hyperpigmentation, and all around a very, very nice treatment with essentially no downside. Really, there's no negatives with this. And that's the beauty of sometimes taking what's found in nature and combining it with things that are produced in the lab. And you get some really powerful combinations that have beautiful versatility, scientifically backed, and also give people real change, which is so important. Again, it's why it's included in the trifecta. So let's switch gears. Glycolic acid is one of the most researched alpha hydroxy acids out there. It's a solid alpha hydroxy acid, and that's why it's been researched and considered one of the top ones. And so overall, I give glycolic acid an 8 out of 10. So here's why it's solid. It's, first of all, clinically proven to exfoliate dead skin cells, improve texture, and even have some collagen stimulating effects. So we're trying to get collagen stimulation from wherever we can. It treats multiple concerns, right? So aging is happening in multiple ways, and it's addressing multiple things. It helps with fine lines, it helps with hyperpigmentation, it even helps with acne, dullness, and uneven tone. So here you go, treating all these different things with a single ingredient. The beauty of it is that it works fast. It's quicker. It's almost like a very, very light chemical peel. Think of it in that way. The results are in weeks and not months, so you don't have to wait around. So it's nice to layer some of these type of quicker treatments into your protocols, because sometimes you just don't want to wait, 3 months to see the full effect of changes. Glycolic acid will start to work right away. So the question is, how does it work? So in a chemical peel sort of fashion, it loosens the bonds between dead skin cells on the surface, which allows those skin cells that are dead to release and effectively be exfoliated. So therefore, your skin, that once it's free of that outer layer, think of it as like peels of an onion, the outer layers are dead and dull. Once you peel that off, you're going to see brighter, smoother skin underneath it. It also penetrates a bit deeper than most alpha hydroxy acids. So that's largely because of its smaller molecular size. So the downside of that is that it can cause some irritation and redness and sensitivity, but if you don't overdo it and use small amounts of it and really careful how you pair this with other strong actives, you can tolerate it and get a lot out of your skincare routine with this. But a lot of times, you don't want to use it. If you're using a straight glycolic acid, you probably want to, be careful. If you're getting irritation, slow down on its use it every other day, or you're out and about in the sun a lot. Remember, it can also cause some sun sensitivity, so make sure you're diligent with SPF. And by the way, you should be diligent with SPF, period, if you're doing any of these things, because none of these things are going to work as well as they can if you're getting loads of sun exposure on a regular basis, because the sun is accelerating all the things that you're trying to undo with these actives. So overall, a very powerful workhorse type ingredient, very well studied, very accessible, but you need to use it smartly. And we actually put a very small amount of it in our cleanser in rinse to prepare the skin for all those important actives that are coming out. But it's a very gentle exfoliation, the way we formulated it. All right, so let's move on to Bakuchiol. I always mess up that name. I don't even know if that's properly how to pronounce it. Bakuchiol, I don't know. Here's the thing. It's a interesting ingredient because it's a one that is found in nature, but it has qualities of retinol. So consider it, like a plant-based or natural retinol alternative. And that's where, you see it kind of propped up and hyped up on social media, that it's it gives you the collagen stimulation, the improving texture, evening out your tone without the irritation. Overall, I give it a 7 out of 10. It's a solid product. It has clinical studies. It's shown that it works. It does the things that retinol does with fine lines and improving firmness and texture and all those important things. And it's definitely more gentle than retinol. The way I would look at it is, if you can tolerate retinol, then use it. If you can't tolerate it, this might be an alternative. It's not necessarily better or worse or whatever, but at the end of the day, getting some of that effect on there is very, very important. But if you can tolerate retinol, why not use this on top of the retinol? Get more of that anti-aging effect. And again, that's why we included it in some of our products. It's actually found in Enrich, our barrier balm that we use, basically to decrease transepidermal water loss and get some of that effect. So hydration plus some anti-aging effects. But it's a very, very good ingredient. But don't fall for it's better than retinol marketing. I wouldn't put it there. All right. But it's definitely something you can use strategically in your skincare routine. And it lives up to the hype. All right, so now we're gonna get to some interesting ones. And these are some that you have been hearing a lot about in social media and a lot of hype up marketing. So Exosomes is up, number 11. So Exosomes is probably, in my mind, one of the most overhyped skincare ingredients. First of all, let's start with what Exosomes are. So they're basically, think of them as packages. So think of them as like little bags that are technically supposed to keep in the bags some important cellular messengers. And the idea is that this bag will then be able to penetrate through the cell surface, enter the cell, deliver those cellular messengers, things like growth factors and proteins that are, would potentially regenerate and repair skin. Overall, brilliant concepts. And I honestly, I think there's going to be a place for them in the future because, why not be able to do that? The problem is, at the moment, I'm going to give Exosomes a 1 out of 10, and that's honestly being generous. And the reason why is because there's literally no evidence whatsoever that Exosomes can penetrate the skin in a reliable way at this time. Like I said, there's smart research being done. There's labs out there trying to sort this out. But sometimes you come to market too quickly with something. All you have is some preclinical data, meaning like things that are done in laboratories and cells and not on actual human skin, and not done over time, and not done in larger studies, et cetera, the way all the other ingredients that I just talked about have been done. You have to question this because there's no standardization, there's no proof of efficacy. And even just the concentrations, how much of this is penetrating, how much is not, what is really happening at the cellular level, these things all lead me to be concerned about not just efficacy, but even safety, right? We just simply don't have enough long-term data about their potential, but also their safety. So all this stuff together puts me at a real pause button point where I'm like, this is not something that I would want to play with. It's not something I would want to recommend for my patients, my wife, myself, or even include them in a separate line in our Karam MD family. Someday, there may come a time when that happens, but at this moment, we should be in a watchful waiting position. So be careful of those exosome products that are out there and the marketing around them that is selling them as they're the next miracle treatment. I don't buy it, neither should you. All right, next. Snail mucin. So this is another interesting one. I remember when snail mucin really got hot a year or two ago. I lose track of time, but it was literally everywhere. So what is snail mucin? So basically, it's, you see snails, they leave a little trail behind. And really the reason why it got such hype, and fortunately it's starting to die down a little bit, is because snail mucin is rich in hyaluronic acid. There also have some peptides in there as well that can potentially support the skin barrier, all good things, right? But I'm gonna give it a 2 out of 10. And the reason for that is there is no good reason that you should be using snail mucin over regular hyaluronic acid or even the regular peptides, because they work beautifully. It's not a complicated product. It works very effective. There's tons of peptides, et cetera, that have important effects on the skin that we know work really well. But at the end of the day, in addition to the fact that you're not getting anything unique out of using an animal-derived product, but also the research is pretty limited. There's no overwhelming clinical evidence that it's superior to standard moisturizers. And writing the marketing hype is so typical in skincare, and you got to be careful about that. And reality is, where do these snail mucin come from? Well, it raises some ethical issues. They come from snail farming, and for people who want their products not to have eco effects or animal testing, well, this is really, really a negative product for that very reason. So personally, I don't think this is worth any of the benefits you get from it. I would rather leave the snails alone and really just get my hyaluronic acid and my peptides from sources that I can reproduce without any harm to any animals, et cetera. And I think it's just an ethical issue. But bottom line is the hype is starting to slow down on it. But this is an amazing, amazing example of how social media and marketing hype can really elevate the presence of something that shouldn't ever get that much limelight. All right, so there you have it, my friends. 12 of the most popular skincare ingredients rated from a facial plastic surgeon who actually uses this stuff and spent 4 years formulating my own. So some of these are game changers, some of these are overhyped, and hopefully a few of them surprised you. If you want more of these videos, more ingredients, etc., more honest ratings, let me know. I'll cover it in subsequent videos. I think you guys really enjoy this type of content and presentation of this type of information, but let me know in the comments below and we'll take that into consideration. All right, my friends, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel, share this with some friends and family, subscribe to the Karam MD Journal, where is my weekly newsletter that goes directly to your inbox and gives even deeper analysis of these topics. So make sure you do that. And until next time, Dr. Amir Karam.